The dog days of summer are over. As the days get shorter, kids get back to class and families fall into new routines. There are some new autumn activities to look forward to. One of these is the return of football. There's nothing quite like watching your favorite team win by scoring touchdown after touchdown. Often we see these athletes who perform at the top of their sport and assume that football is their primary focus in life. After all, so many hours go into practice and perfecting their craft. But competition isn't everything for every pro player. It's possible to be both a pro athlete and a serious academic. John Urschel is a prime example of this. At 27 years old, he played college football for Penn State and then was drafted into the NFL by the Baltimore Ravens in 2014. While his NFL teammates were watching TV and relaxing in between games, Urschel was instead putting together and publishing papers in some of the top math journals. In 2016, he enrolled in MIT to pursue his PhD in mathematics, while simultaneously still playing pro. Today, Urschel is a retired football player and is an incoming junior fellow at Harvard University. Last year, he finished his PhD in applied mathematics from MIT. Among his many titles, Urschel is also a husband and father. You might be wondering, how was he able to juggle such different lives for several years? Urschel says his love for both football and mathematics started early in life.
As a child, I was always into puzzles. I was always into sort of games. And I loved solving problems and just trying to find the solution to sort of enjoyable puzzles. And this is what my love of math really was born out of. With respect to football, my father played college football. He played at the University of Alberta, and so he was a big influence on me with respect to sports, and I wanted to play football because, I wanted to be like my dad in many ways. My mom, actually, she was the first person in her family to go to college. She really did quite well for herself, and so education was really important to her because she had seen firsthand the power of education in improving her life.
With his parents supporting both ends of his endeavors, Urschel went on to play for the football powerhouse Penn State while juggling his undergraduate studies in mathematics.
It took a lot of work, I'll admit. College athletes, they really have their work cut out for them. A lot is asked of them, but it was also really enjoyable. I mean, college football is an amazing experience, being able to sort of represent your university with all of your best friends, and I really cherished my time at Penn State, even though I was quite busy sort of managing football and mathematics at the same time. The football program loved all the things I was doing with math, and they supported me, and they wanted me to do whatever it was I wanted, and sort of my math mentors really encouraged me to do what I wanted to do with football, and I think it's not like that everywhere, but I was really lucky to be in a great football program at Penn State where they actively sort of encouraged me with respect to education.
With guidance and help along the way from his family, team, and mentors, Urschel excelled in football and school, graduating from Penn State with dual degrees in mathematics and signing with the Baltimore Ravens as an offensive lineman. But playing in the NFL wasn't the same as in college.
It was very different. It was really enjoyable in the sense that I was getting the chance to play football at the highest level, a sport that I had played for a long time, and there's something amazing in that. But the team atmosphere is definitely not the same. The sort of closeness with your teammates, I think, is not the same. And the sense of allegiance you feel to your team and the sense of allegiance your team feels towards you, it's just not the same.
Despite the pressure of playing pro, Urschel found the time to feed his passion for math and keep learning. In the spring of 2016, he enrolled in MIT to take classes full-time on the off-season. But when football picked back up, he had to juggle both while on the road. Urschel talks about a bad concussion that knocked him out of commission for weeks, leaving him questioning where his efforts were best placed.
It was really frustrating. I mean, concussions, these things happen in all sports, and this is a risk you take when you play sports. But it was really frustrating because I really loved football, I really loved math, and I couldn't do either of those things at the time. So it was a really frustrating time in my life.
While Urschel was back to doing what he loves after a short break, the long-term dangers could persist. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE, thought to be caused by repeated hits to the head, has been a big topic in football in recent years. When asked if this was a factor, Urschel says those concerns weren't a major reason in his decision to ultimately quit football.
I think it was sort of the more time I spent at MIT, every single time I left MIT, it got harder and harder. And it started to not be a question of, am I going to retire, but how soon? Am I going to retire now, or am I going to play one more year and then retire? But all of a sudden, the mindset really did become, no, I'm going to be done with football very soon and sort of focus on mathematics. And then also sort of the coming of my daughter was another big thing.
Urschel retired from the NFL in 2017 after 3 seasons with the Baltimore Ravens. He's now a prominent name in the mathematics field and says he's happier than ever before. He's thankful he gets to be an academic for the rest of his life, spending his days solving equations and inspiring young students.
I think MIT life is really enjoyable in many ways. Okay, I mean, a PhD student's salary here doesn't really compare to an NFL salary, but there's a lot of people here doing things that they really love and they really enjoy. And we come into work every day, we get to call it work, and we just read papers, we learn about mathematics, we try to solve interesting open problems, we teach undergrads and young people and try to inspire them with respect to math. And it's just an amazing thing, and it's crazy that people get to call that a job. And I'm really glad that I took the path that I did. And it's very different from a lot of my colleagues in mathematics here who sort of pure math people, sort of their whole lives doing international math competitions and going to Princeton mathematics for undergrad and all of these sorts of things. And I have to say, I'm really glad I took the road I did, because it gave me a lot of characteristics that I'm thankful for.
He says it was incredibly tough at times to be a student and athlete, but in the end, the late nights and grit it took shaped him into the well-rounded, driven person he is today.
I would say follow your dreams, be passionate, understand what your goals are, what you want to accomplish, and be dedicated to that. And be resilient, because when you're trying to do both of these things at a high level, you're going to face setbacks, you're going to face adversity, and to be able to push through that.
As a minority in mathematics, Urschel wants to inspire kids from all backgrounds that if you dream it, you can do it. The notion that education doesn't matter if you're a student athlete is false. It does. It just takes a lot of hard work to do both.
You have this idea, but you also have these athletes who so much is being asked of them, and it's very hard for them to sort of also manage their academics, but I think it's possible, and I think it's important to send a message to young people, especially kids in middle school and high school, that it's important and it's really beneficial to be a little bit well-rounded, to, yes, be strong in academics, because I have to say education matters, but doing some sort of physical activity, this is just a good thing for your life. I just wanted to sort of share a story of what it takes to be really good at something and what that's like, the work that was required, and also the dedication and the perseverance. I hate to break it to people. If you read this book, there's not going to be some secret about how to be really good at 2 things. It turns out that it just really takes hard work, and a lot of it.
Check out Urschel's memoir, Mind and Matter, A Life in Math and Football, available in bookstores and online. You can find more about this topic and our guest, John Urschel, by visiting viewpointsradio.org. This segment was written and produced by Amira Zaveri and originally aired in June 2019. I'm Gary Price. Coming up on Viewpoints.
Only times there's change is when there's protests from the ground. People are protesting, they're voting, making their voice heard. Then the government responds with policies to help make changes.
The difficult conversations and actions that lead to greater equality and opportunity for all. Them.
It's a complicated and difficult road for transit outside of the places that really, really need it.
The state of public transportation in the U.S. I'm Marty Peterson.
And I'm Gary Price. these stories in depth on your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.
And that's Viewpoints for this week. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to learn more about upcoming shows and find a library of past programs on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. Plus, you'll always find previous segments and more information about our guests at viewpointsradio.org. Join us again next week for another edition of Viewpoints.